General Hospital spoilers reveal that there is something terrifying unfolding beneath the surface of Willow's sorrow. A deep and irreversible transformation that no one around her has truly seen coming, not even Michael, who once stood by her through illness, loss, and recovery. Now, after months of emotional disintegration and failed attempts to rebuild her role as a mother, Willow has found herself confronting a truth more painful than death itself. She is no longer trusted. No longer welcome in the lives of her own children. Michael's recent rejection, firm and absolute, was not just a denial of visitation, it was the last blow to a fragile spirit already cracking under the weight of her own guilt, fear, and shame. And from that blow has emerged something darker. Obsession. This is not simply a grieving mother mourning the loss of parental access. This is a woman unraveling in real time. Willow's mind is no longer tethered to the logical boundaries of the legal system or emotional healing. Instead, she is consumed by an overwhelming need to feel Amelia and Wiley's arms around her one more time. To reclaim what she believes was stolen from her in a world that no longer recognizes her as their mother. In her eyes, Michael has become the executioner of her motherhood. The one man she thought would always understand her pain but now serves as a cold wall separating her from her children. His refusal to grant even a supervised visit has not only broken her heart, it has corrupted her perception of love, trust, and fairness. The more Willow replays that moment, her tearful plea, Michael's measured but resolute rejection, the more it feeds the new voice inside her. That voice no longer whispers for patience or hope. It screams for action. It tells her that there's no justice left in Port Charles, no mercy in the courts, and certainly no room in Michael's life for her redemption. That voice is what haunts her now. Late at night when she stares at old photos of Wiley's smile or listens to recordings of Amelia's laugh. That voice tells her the only way forward is to do something bold, irreversible. And driven by love, twisted though that love may now be, Willow has started to plan, in quiet secrecy, driven by an obsession so powerful it has consumed every waking moment. The idea of kidnapping her children is no longer terrifying to her, it is necessary. She sees it as salvation, not just for herself, but for the children she believes need her more than Michael could ever admit. The cabin that once symbolized safety and solitude has become her imagined sanctuary. A place where she can disappear with Wiley and Amelia, just long enough to remind them of who she is, just long enough to believe she can rebuild the connection the world keeps ripping from her. In her mind, the authorities won't understand. Michael won't understand. But maybe, just maybe, the children will. Maybe Wiley will remember the lullabies. Maybe Amelia will feel safe in her arms. That hope, no matter how irrational, fuels her now. The sorrow has calcified into obsession. The rejection has evolved into a mission. The quiet Willow, once admired for her strength through suffering, is now a woman on the edge of committing a crime that will shatter every illusion of who she used to be. She tells herself this isn't about revenge. It isn't about punishing Michael or exposing the corruption in Sidwell's influence over the court. It's about righting a wrong, reclaiming what she believes is hers, and silencing the voice inside her that screams she's been erased. But the truth is more harrowing. Willow isn't saving anyone. She is spiraling. And her desperation is about to set off a chain reaction of destruction that will reach far beyond the boundaries of family court. Michael may think he's protecting the children, but his refusal has awakened something he cannot contain. If Willow moves forward with her plan, Port Charles will be thrust into chaos. Jason, Carly, and even Sonny will be drawn into the fallout. The Corinthos family, already fragile and divided, may never recover from the emotional blow. And for Willow, there may be no return. Because once the line is crossed, once Wiley and Amelia are gone and the manhunt begins, the narrative of her life changes forever. No longer the victim. No longer the grieving mother. She becomes the kidnapper, the threat, the woman who chose obsession over healing. And worst of all, somewhere deep inside her fractured mind, she knows this. But it doesn't stop her. Because in her world, where love has become pain and rejection has become madness, There is no future without Wiley and Amelia. There is only now. There is only escape. There is only the desperate final act of a mother whose heart has burned into something unrecognizable. And that act is coming, fast, inevitable, and soaked in tragedy. The darkness that had begun to stir within Willow was no longer a whisper. It had evolved into a roaring storm, one that refused to be ignored, silenced, or contained. In the aftermath of her breakdown and the court ruling that severed her legal rights to see Wiley and Amelia, Willow's psyche fractured further. She had pleaded, begged, and sobbed at Michael's feet. Her voice trembling with desperation, asking only for a sliver of her former life back. But Michael, hardened by betrayal and consumed by his own protective instincts, denied her with cold precision. That rejection echoed inside her like a scream inside a locked room, reverberating, inescapable, and unrelenting. It was not just the loss of her children, it was the loss of identity, of motherhood. Of the very air she breathed. And in the shadows stood Sidwell, calculating, serpentine, and opportunistic. He didn't comfort her. He didn't console her. Instead, he offered something far more dangerous, validation. He confessed with a sickening calm that he had manipulated the outcome of the custody hearing. The judge, he revealed, had accepted the bribe without resistance. The entire proceeding had been a performance, and Willow had been cast as the doomed player long before she stepped into the courtroom. This admission wasn't meant to hurt her. It was meant to inflame her. To light a fire so uncontrollable within her that it would burn through everything and everyone in her path. And it did. Willow felt her mind twist into something unfamiliar, something volatile. Her grief had festered into obsession. Her yearning mutated into madness. She no longer believed that justice would be served by law. She believed now in the justice of reclamation. If they wouldn't return her children, then she would take them herself. She waited for the perfect moment, blending into the shadows of Port Charles, unnoticed but ever present. She knew their routines, the school drop-offs, the playground visits, the babysitter's grocery stops. She watched from behind tinted windows, memorizing everything. Amelia's giggle. Wiley's limp from a scraped knee. It all belonged to her. And she would not let the world convince her otherwise. The cabin Isaiah had been renovating was remote, hidden by thick woods and known only to a few. Lucky Spencer had given the land to Isaiah long ago, but no one paid attention to it now. It was perfect. Willow wasn't simply running. She was preparing. The floorboards had been cleaned. The windows reinforced. Blankets, food, water, medicine, it was all there. She wasn't insane, she told herself. She was a mother. A mother who had been pushed too far. On a rainy Thursday, when the sky hung low and gray over Port Charles, Willow acted. Michael was at a board meeting. The nanny, distracted with a phone call, stepped away for only a few minutes. That was all Willow needed. She approached Wiley and Amelia with a smile, calm and radiant, the way only a mother can. The children ran to her, instinctively, confused but joyous. She embraced them tightly, tears soaking into their jackets. There were no screams. No resistance. Just a quiet vanishing, like smoke escaping through a cracked door. By the time Michael returned, the house was already in lockdown. Carly was screaming, Sonny was making calls, and Chase was demanding access to surveillance footage. What they didn't know was that Sidwell was still pulling strings from behind the curtain. He wasn't just an enabler, he was orchestrating chaos for his own advantage. The more Michael unraveled, the more fragile the Corinthos empire became. And Sidwell wanted it all to fall. He leaked false leads, corrupted search warrants, and sent detectives on wild goose chases. Every hour that passed widened the distance between truth and fiction, between safety and tragedy. Inside the cabin, Willow told the children bedtime stories, trying to keep them calm. Her voice cracked at the edges, and her hands shook when she tried to braid Amelia's hair. Her mind was splintering. She saw flashes, moments of reality where she realized what she'd done, but then they vanished beneath the weight of her obsession. She believed Michael was a threat. She believed the world was a threat. In her heart, she had convinced herself that she was saving her children from a future without love. Isaiah eventually discovered signs of life near the cabin, footprints that didn't belong, a toy car stuck in the mud. He didn't confront Willow immediately. He watched. He listened. And when he finally approached, it wasn't with condemnation, it was with heartbreak. He saw her, truly saw her, in her unraveling, and tried to reach her. He told her that what she was doing was not salvation, it was kidnapping. It was destruction. But Willow, trembling and gaunt, stared back at him with hollow eyes and whispered, "They're mine. They were taken from me. I'm just taking them back." Back in Port Charles, the media had latched onto the story. Disgraced mother kidnaps children. Psychotic breakdown leads to abduction. But there were some who still defended her, Alexis among them. Alexis, who had seen the cracks forming months ago, tried to explain that mental illness doesn't make you a monster. But the public didn't care. Michael, once torn, now moved with fury. He told Dante to treat Willow like a fugitive. He told Drew to stop trying to justify her actions. He wanted his children back. And if Willow stood in the way, she would face the full weight of his wrath. The standoff at the cabin came quietly. No sirens. No loudspeakers. Just a slow encirclement of police and family. Hoping to end things without tragedy. Willow held Amelia in one arm, Wiley by the hand, and stood in the doorway, unwilling to move. For a moment, it looked as if she would flee deeper into the woods. But Isaiah's voice called her back, calm and broken. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Willow collapsed. Not from gunfire. Not from force. From surrender. Her body gave out from exhaustion. From madness, from the weight of everything she had tried to carry alone. The children were returned to Michael, shaken but unharmed. Willow was taken into custody, her eyes vacant. Her mind fractured beyond comprehension. In the days that followed, the Corinthos family remained shaken. Michael refused to speak Willow's name. Sidwell vanished from the public eye. Rumors of his involvement whispered but never proven. Alexis pushed for psychiatric treatment over prison time. Carly tried to erase the memory of Willow from Amelia's mind, replacing it with stories of strength and resilience. And Sunny just watched, knowing that one obsession had been buried, but others still lingered. In Port Charles. Nothing ends, things only fester beneath the surface, waiting to rise again. Willow had once been seen as the embodiment of fragile grace, a woman who overcame illness and loss with quiet strength. But those days had long passed. What now festered beneath the surface was not sorrow, but something more dangerous, an obsession forged in rejection and sharpened by desperation. The more Michael pulled away, the more her world shrank into a singular fixation, reclaiming Wiley and Amelia at any cost. And in the wake of that obsession, two well-meaning individuals, Isaiah and Liz, became tangled in a carefully woven trap of half-truths, veiled intentions, and emotional dependency that they never saw coming. Isaiah had always viewed Willow with compassion. He had seen the spark in her dimming eyes and mistook it for hope rather than mania. After all, he had been a man on the edge himself once. And it was Lucky Spencer's generosity and belief in redemption that had pulled him back from that cliff. He now believed it was his turn to do the same for someone else. That belief blinded him to the early signs, the unannounced visits to the cabin, the way Willow flinched at every mention of court. The scattered pages of scribbled thoughts that Isaiah dismissed as therapeutic journaling. He did not see the instability for what it was. He saw only a soul in need of healing. Liz, meanwhile, felt an instinctive pull to care. As a nurse and a mother, she had a soft spot for women trying to reclaim their lives after trauma. Willow had played the part of a broken mother so convincingly, whispers of longing for her children, tearful recounts of isolation. Assurances that she was attending therapy and working through her issues. Liz brought her meals, offered updates on Wiley and Amelia, and even spoke gently to Michael about reconsidering supervised visitation. She believed in restoration. What she didn't realize was that every kindness she extended was being catalogued by Willow as justification, proof that she was still trusted and loved, even when the courts turned their back on her. But Willow's internal narrative was no longer about justice or healing, it was about reclaiming control. In her fractured mind, Michael wasn't protecting the children, he was punishing her. Wiley wasn't safe, he was stolen. Amelia wasn't thriving, she was being denied the love of her real mother. These were the lies she told herself, and with Sidwell lurking in the shadows, fanning the flames of her paranoia, those lies began to metastasize into action. Sidwell, cunning and calculating, had chosen Willow not because he cared about her outcome, but because her unraveling served his larger goal, to destabilize Port Charles from within. By encouraging Willow's delusions, by revealing that he had bribed the judge to secure Michael's win, Sidwell knew exactly how to fracture her remaining sense of reality. Willow now believed she wasn't simply being overlooked, she was being conspired against. Everyone was part of it, the court, Michael, even Carly. The only people she could trust were the ones she manipulated into caring, Isaiah and Liz, and even they, she believed, needed to be kept in the dark. Because the less they knew, the more they could defend her when the time came. And so Willow returned to Isaiah's cabin, not to rest, but to prepare. Hidden beneath the floorboards were the children's clothes, carefully folded. She had memorized Wiley's school route, even bribed a janitor for camera access. Amelia's daycare drop-off times were logged in her journal, along with plans for escape routes and safe havens. Her phone, a burner gifted by Sidwell, buzzed only when he chose to stoke her determination. He reminded her, if they wanted to erase you, then erase them first. Isaiah remained unaware, believing he was offering peace to a woman in crisis. He repaired broken shingles, left food and blankets at the doorstep, even wrote her a letter telling her how proud he was. Liz, sensing unease but suppressing it, started asking Willow to consider inpatient treatment. But it was too late. Every attempt to help now only confirmed for Willow that they were slipping away. That she had to act before everyone turned on her. Then came the day when Liz arrived at the cabin and found it empty. The bed was made, the food untouched. A child-stuffed bunny rested on the nightstand. Liz's blood ran cold. She called Isaiah, who raced over in disbelief. Together, they searched the woods, calling out her name. But Willow was already gone. Her car, parked miles away, was found with 2 booster seats installed and a map of remote state parks in the glove compartment. In town, Michael's world was unraveling. Carly screamed at him for not seeing it sooner. Jason, hearing of the disappearance, immediately suspected Sidwell's involvement and began tracing burner phones tied to his alias. Drew and Dante coordinated with the local police, while Laura, just before her final day as mayor, authorized full surveillance around Amelia's daycare and Wiley's school. The children had vanished during a school pickup. Amelia's daycare worker said a woman matching Willow's description had shown identification signed by Michael himself. Wiley had run toward her with joy. No one suspected a thing. Port Charles descended into chaos. News stations reported an Amber Alert. Michael collapsed into grief and guilt. Nina, desperate to help, offered a public plea. Sonny, though consumed by his own power plays, put every Corinthos associate on alert to find Willow, even if it meant questioning Sidwell directly. Meanwhile, Liz was brought in for questioning. Though cleared of any active involvement, her guilt was crushing. She had looked into the eyes of madness and seen only pain. In the woods, far from town, Willow sat by a fire in a small clearing, rocking Amelia gently while Wiley played nearby. Her face bore no trace of regret, only triumph. She whispered to the children that they were safe now, that no one would ever take them away again. But even as she spoke, her hands trembled. Her eyes darted with paranoia. Because somewhere inside, a small flicker of reality remained, whispering that this peace was a delusion. That any moment now, sirens would pierce the forest, and her world would collapse. Isaiah returned to the cabin every day, hoping for a sign. Liz refused to sleep, haunted by her part in the unraveling. Michael buried himself in maps and timelines, tracing every move. And Sidwell? He watched it all unfold from a distance, smiling. His masterpiece of manipulation complete. For poor Charles, the name Willow no longer evoked sorrow, but warning. She had become the embodiment of what happened when grief curdled into madness. When obsession bled into action, and when kindness was weaponized into a tool for destruction. And until the children were found, until Willow was brought back, no one would sleep peacefully again. Michael was once known for his calm, measured responses, especially when it came to family matters. But now, the quiet strength had hardened into something else, a fierce, unwavering determination to protect his children at all costs. After months of watching Willow unravel, after court hearings stained by accusations and desperate pleas, Michael had finally reached his breaking point. He no longer saw Willow as the woman he once loved or the devoted mother she once tried to be. She had become a threat. And his instincts as a father had taken over. The court's decision to grant Michael full custody of Wiley and Amelia had ignited a firestorm neither he nor Port Charles was ready for. Willow's obsession had already been escalating behind closed doors, frantic messages, sleepless nights, whispered threats to anyone she believed was standing in her way. But once the custody ruling was official, it was as if something inside her fractured completely. The idea of losing her children wasn't just painful, it was intolerable. And in her mind, the world was conspiring to take everything from her, Michael, the courts, even those who claimed to be her friends. Michael had anticipated backlash, but not to this extent. He had upgraded security around his house, ensured Wiley's school had emergency protocols, and even asked Dante to stay close, knowing that law enforcement might need to step in. He wasn't just preparing for legal retaliation, he was preparing for something irrational, emotional, dangerous. And that fear proved justified when Willow disappeared from Isaiah's cabin. Liz, haunted by guilt, couldn't reach her. Isaiah had no idea where she'd gone. And then, just days later, Wiley and Amelia vanished without a trace. The custody battle had now become something darker. A manhunt. Michael no longer had the luxury of framing this as a domestic dispute. It was abduction. And yet, despite the terror and rage in his heart, part of him still asked, was Willow acting alone? Or had someone, like Sidwell, pushed her over the edge for their own gain? Michael's every move was now about control, prevention, defense. But Willow's were about escape, illusion, and emotional survival. Their conflict had morphed into a psychological war with no rules, no clarity, and no guarantee of resolution. And with two innocent children caught in the crossfire. The question now wasn't who would win, but who would still be standing when it was over.